Good afternoon. I'm Kelly McLaughlin, and I am the CEO and founder of KME.Digital. I also happen to be a JMU grad from the class of 1990 and a member of the JMU Marketing Department's Executive Advisory Council. And so I've been asked to put together some information about LinkedIn and how LinkedIn can help folks with networking. Especially at this time where a lot of our in-person interactions have been limited, the LinkedIn networking component is even more relevant. So let's get started. So let me first cover what we're going to talk about in this video. So when we talk about networking online, it really boils down to two things. Number one, contacts, right? And number two, engagement. And so I'm going to cover both of those elements in the video. So let's start with contacts. Who are your contacts? Well, as you can imagine, obviously your work contacts are work colleagues, professors, friends, neighbors, family friends, people that you meet at networking events, and people that you would like to know. Interesting, you know, when I took a look at my contacts, that was exactly what I saw as I went through, and I said, wow, yeah, well, Gary, I used to work with Gary back in the mid-90s at Pricewaterhouse. That's how I remember him. Steve Robertson, I met him at a networking event. Randall Belknap, also a JMU grad, FYI, and a neighbor. Jenna Jansen, a student that I met at JMU when I was down giving a talk, and Adam Hofstadter, someone I met at a networking event. And I just randomly grabbed the top people that showed up at the top of my networking or at the top of my contacts. So anyhow, it's really important that as you start out your professional career, as you interact with people professionally, as you go down that path, to definitely connect with people on LinkedIn so that you always have a way back to easily communicate with them. You know, as I mentioned, I graduated in 1990, so I've been around for a while, and sometimes I'm really surprised when I sort of page through my contacts to see folks that I haven't spoken to in so long, but for some reason I need to get back and be in touch with them for something, even if it's something silly. So so definitely work hard on building up your contact list, okay? So how are you going to connect? Well, I would say that, you know, your work colleagues, your professors, your friends, your neighbors, maybe even your family friends, that's kind of a no-brainer, right? You're just going to send them a connection request, and certainly it's helpful if it's a professor, or maybe if it's a neighbor or a family friend, that you would maybe add a little note in there with the professor. Hey, I really enjoyed your class, and I look forward to, you know, continuing engaging with you after graduation, something like that. But I would say these are the easy ones to connect with, right? These are, I would say, the no-brainers, right? These two down here, the networking events and the people that you would like to know, those are ones that I think you need to work a little bit harder to connect with. So let's say, for example, you meet somebody at a networking event, and you've got a great conversation, and then afterwards you want to connect with them. It's always helpful to include in that connection request a note that somehow references where you met, if it was the day before even. Hey, I used an example in here, you know, just following up on our conversation from the Summit Digital Marketing Conference. It was great to meet you and to learn more about your transition into the world of paid advertising. Looking forward to an ongoing dialogue, Kelly. Okay. I like to say that the way in which you compose the connection note, if you will, needs to be pertinent, it needs to be praiseful, and it needs to be professional. So another little tip, when you go to a networking event, or you meet somebody in some sort of a networking venue, I always find that you have a great conversation, and then the next day, you get to the office and you've got 100 things to do and you forget to reconnect with them. It's really important, if you're going to carve out the time to attend a networking event, that you're also going to carve out the time to do follow-up. Because if you went to this networking event, you met some great people that you want to continue to connect with, and you don't do the next part, then you kind of wasted your time. And so make sure that that second piece is included in your follow-up. And then people you would like to know, absolutely, and I'm going to do a whole section at the end taking us through a way to connect with people that you would like to know. But again, those folks must get a note that accompanies the connection request. And you have 300 characters to work with, so you can definitely use the space and be descriptive. Next, engagement. Okay, so when we say engagement, we're talking about liking, commenting, recommending, sharing, and posting, right? And so what does that look like? Number one, complimenting. Going online, here's an example of one where Nima Sanami posted something about a video that he had just given, or a webinar that he had given, and someone comes online and says, thanks for another great episode, great insights, right? So if you go in and maybe just carve out 10 to 15 minutes a day as you're trying to build your network and build your online community, you spend maybe 10 to 15 minutes going through and looking for opportunities to leave a like, leave a compliment, ask a question. As you do that, you will, A, be more visible in front of that audience. B, it also gives you a sense of what works and what doesn't, right? Every time you comment on something like this, you're now going to be seen by everybody else that commented on it as well. Complimenting, asking a question, sharing something that's cool, right? Demonstrating thought leadership. Those are all opportunities to engage in LinkedIn and ultimately to grow your network. Tip. Okay, so people that you would like to know. Okay, so this is the one where I think LinkedIn can be really compelling, especially for folks that are potentially right out of school or you're looking for employment. This is where you can and this is I'm using the features, even though we have Sales Navigator on here, we're using the features of just straight up LinkedIn. Okay, so you can use the Boolean search in the search bar. So I did a search here for Director of Marketing, in quotes, and DC. And so I'm getting 25,042 results, right? So I want to get in front of more of these folks, right? So I get a result that tells me all these people that fit that characteristic. So now I can go in and poke around at their profiles, see what they look like, and see if they would be appropriate to connect with. Okay, so here is an opportunity with following somebody versus connecting with them that can be really useful and help you get on the radar of someone that you might be interested in, connecting with ultimately, but maybe you don't feel like you've engaged with them enough or they know you well enough in order to send that connection request, okay? So what you can do is you can follow them. So I just did that Boolean search in the previous slide. Some people showed up, and now I'm going to go in and I'm going to follow them. Now, when I follow them, every single time that person posts, it's going to show up in my notifications. Okay, and so it shows up in my notifications. It then allows me to see that they posted something, and now I can go in and leave a comment. This is awesome, and I can tag them, and I can do commenting in here that is going to potentially help me with a future dialogue or a future communication with that person. So this is a great way to sort of tiptoe into getting in touch with somebody that maybe you don't know yet, but that you would really like to know. Okay. Another tip. Okay. LinkedIn sends people are looking at your LinkedIn profile emails, right? They'll send this to you. I'm sure you've seen this, where it tells you how many people have looked at your profile. And then it even gives you a nice little link and you can go take a look at who's been looking at you, right? I always recommend that that you put yourself in stealth mode, okay? Which basically means I'm going to go ahead, if I'm going to be doing research and looking around, because when you're doing that, you're going to be looking at a lot of profiles of people that you may or may not want to connect with, may or may not want to follow, who knows. But if you're looking at all of these different profiles, it's going to end up, they're going to end up being notified, and maybe you didn't actually want that connection or that dialogue with them at all. And so it's helpful if you just go ahead and anonymize yourself when you're doing that, certainly when you're doing that research, for sure. Or you can just leave it off always. I think I have mine off always, but I would set it to private mode. And then what happens is you set it to private mode, and here, this is under privacy, under your settings for your profile. And then you're going to look like this. You're going to look like this instead of like this when someone has a look at it, right? So you will just be considered a LinkedIn member versus all of your stats and profile information. And so that's generally the recommended way. Again, LinkedIn is a fantastic tool for engaging with people online. I know one of the things that that could be really useful also in your job search. So let's say, for example, you've done a great job of amassing all of these contacts, right? As you do that, you'll find that people that work at company A, B, and C, right? So as you're doing your job search and you decide that you're going to apply to something, one thing to do is to then go through your contacts and see if you know anybody that works at that company, because then you can shoot them a chat message that just says, hey, I noticed that Microsoft is hiring for this position that I'm getting ready to apply for. Do you have any intel on who the contact person is, or anything that you might know about this role? And then that does two things. One, it might give you some intel on the role. And two, if that person is aware of that job opening, they can potentially put in a good word for you. So, I mean, really a wealth of opportunity for using your networking skills in the online world with the tools that we have available. So a couple of the other videos that are related in this series that my friend and former classmate from JMU has done. We've got the ideal LinkedIn profile and why your LinkedIn profile matters. So be sure to check those out as well, and happy to share this with you. And